Duo Concertant is a ballet in 5 sections. It features 2 dancers, 1 male, 1 female, and 2 musicians, a pianist and a violinist. The curtain goes up and nobody's dancing for maybe the first 5 minutes, it feels like. And you just see the dancers watching the 2 musicians playing. And as an audience member, you feel like you're maybe also one of the dancers. Duo Concertant was composed by Igor Stravinsky in the early 1930s, and Balanchine finally chose to use it for the Stravinsky Festival in 1972. The first time I saw Duo Concertant, I was a student at the School of American Ballet. It was with Peter Boll and Yvonne Boré. I immediately fell in love with it, and I knew I wanted to dance it one day. Some of my favorite ballets are the ones where you have the fast footwork, but then there's also that sort of emotional undercurrent to it, and I feel like Duo has both of those. Before I first premiered this ballet, Peter Martins came and took a look, as he usually did, and one of the great things is he would watch any dancer in this ballet and say, you know, I see that you're trying to do what I did, but don't do what I did, I want you to do what you do. Without sort of going overboard, but he wanted it to be individual for the dancer. I've danced this ballet with many ballerinas, and my most recent was Indiana Woodward. One of the interesting things about Duo is sort of passing down the knowledge, and when I learned this, I learned it from like Sterling Hiltine and Megan Fairchild, and they sort of sprinkled down their knowledge that they had got from like Sean Lavery and Kay and Peter. And then when I learned it, being the senior one to Indiana, I sprinkled that information back down to her. And I think that's like one of the great things about our process. In the first section of dancing, it starts with us sort of mimicking the notes of the piano with our feet, very simply. And then when the violin starts, we start adding an arm, and then we start sort of gesturing like we're also the violin. So it's like our feet are the piano keys, and then our port de bras is the violin. I also think how the music is written is that it's supposed to sort of come off as though the 2 musicians are improvising, sort of playing together in the moment. And I think that comes across with the dancing as well. It's like the 2 of us just sort of improvising the steps together and just enjoying being on stage and dancing with each other. The most technically challenging step for me in this ballet is this fast sisson. It's really fast footwork, and for me, I try to think of it like the plink of a piano, so I'm trying to be really springy, and it's difficult because you have to change directions and change feet very quickly. It's really difficult. The original costumes weren't thought of until the last minute, and a funny story was that Balanchine wanted Peter Martins to just wear his jeans that he had brought with him that day to see how it would look. So he wore the jeans for the rehearsal, and they were the bell-bottom jeans, and I guess they were just flying around every time he danced and got in the way, and Balanchine ultimately decided, nope, we should do tights. One of the most interesting things about Duo is that it has a false ending. The dancers finish dancing and you think it's over and the lights go black. However, it's not quite over yet. Music starts playing and it's pitch black, and then all of a sudden a spotlight opens up on the ballerina's face. In preparation for this ballet, I did some research and I came across a YouTube video with the original cast, Kay Mazo and Peter Martins, talking about the ballet. And they talked about this ending and how Balanchine liked to call it Hollywood because of the spotlights and the melodramatic nature of the ending. I think a lot of people might think it's about romance or maybe a lost love or something of that nature. But for me, I don't necessarily change my approach from the first section to the last. I've been dancing this ballet for I think almost 10 years now. Maybe the speed is a little bit more difficult now. But of course, the artistry I feel like is maybe starting to develop a little bit more. When I first debuted the ballet, I think the relationship I felt with the ballerina was maybe something a little bit more friendly just because I was younger. But now that I've gotten a little older and more experienced, I feel like that relationship is getting deeper and changing a little less from friendship and turning into something else.